Hello everyone. I decided to try, at least make the attempt, to redeem myself for missing the department info where I was planning to give you an initial update of how the Notfall service is developing at our Tierspital. I want to start off with my apologies for missing the meeting, and I'm fully responsible for that, and I'm ashamed for missing my first opportunity to tell everyone what we are building together. So once again, my deepest apologies to all of you, and I hope that this brief presentation would allow to clarify a few aspects of what we're working on, and certainly still a major work in progress. And I will certainly do a follow-up info at the next department meeting, and at the cost of sleeping on the chairs of the presentation room, I will certainly be there. But once, as I said, the service is still largely under construction, despite the fact that there was a start in January and then a restart in July. We are not even close to have a definitive version of what the service will look like and what we are working on building within the hospital. So it's a big project and we are still hard working on it. I want to start with a follow-up apology, and the apology is for all the extra work, for all the negative emergency ultrasounds, for giving negative plasma to a positive patient, for the incomplete transfers and paperwork, for my foreign treatment plans, for the imperfect estimates, for the equipment that we had borrowed and not properly returned, and for not kissing 3 times, and for anything done wrong. At the same time, I want to thank you all for all the extra work, for the negative emergency ultrasounds, for the negative plasma that you have available to us, for fixing incomplete transfers and paperwork, for your foreign treatment plans, for correcting imperfect estimate, for the times equipment borrowed from the Notfall eventually returned, for anything you have done for our patients. Also, thank you for your feedback. It's always welcome, especially the negative one. A special thank you to anyone that has helped the Notfall service, especially when he came with a smile. Just as a brief confirmation of what I think is known to everyone, the official opening was July 1st, 2019, and the public kind of identified that as the opening date of a service. The working hours are 365 days a year, Monday through Friday from 4 p.m. until 7 a.m., then Saturday, Sunday, and holiday as a 24-hour service. For now, this would be likely the schedule that we'll maintain for the following month, potentially even longer. The Notfall team is in constant development. So far we have 13 assistants, and the number will not increase. We have just some new arrivals that recently started, Nicholas Holtz and Saskia Klimes, and one new TPA that is Jana Knapp. Unfortunately, I think I misspelled her last name, so I apologize for that. That's bad, but sorry, Jana. But here's their pictures, respectively. The only boy is Nicholas, and you'll see him around, always with a smile. That's good. And then there are the 2 arrival as Saskia in the bottom, and up top is Jana with her 2 doggies on the mountains. I actually like those mountains. I would like to be there. And then there's one director that you already know, sadly me. I'm kidding. And then one new overarch that will start officially October 1st, Claudia Iannucci. How do you know who of all these people is available any day of a week? Vetera Notfall calendar is updated daily, listing the personnel that is available that day. Assistant and TPR listing when they're working and their respective phone number. So that's the easiest way to find who's on and to contact us should you need us on that specific day. Notfall doctor shifts plan. The shift plans were designed to allow everyone to have a sustainable working schedule, but also to cover the busy time of the day the most, with the more doctors available during those times. So each letter on this table that as a graph represents on a vertical axis the hour of the day from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. at the very bottom, and then on the horizontal axis Monday through Sunday. The letters that you see on each hour block represent a doctor. So a shift is a weekly shift that varies depending on which one each doctor is on. But let's say at 3 p.m. here we are going to have a doctor doing shift A, a doctor doing shift C, and a doctor doing shift F. This represents how many doctors are present receiving patients in Notfall at any given time. Unfortunately, up to now, we were not able to cover all the shifts, so there was always a little bit of a missing person because one shift could not be filled in by the available people. For the time being, the supervision that is provided directly from the Notfall service is by me, and I'm working Wednesday through Sunday on clinics from the 4 p.m. starts Monday, Thursday, Friday until 1, 2 a.m. and then Saturday and Sunday from 12 or so until the same time at the end of the day. So that is the coverage provided directly by a Notfall specialist. Eventually we're going to have full coverage once Claudia Iannucci arrives, and that obviously would be of large help to the assistants and to the hospital as a whole, as well as to patient care. The shift, as I said, are 10, and each of them varies based on days that they are being covered and hours. Obviously, we need to work 24 hours around the clock on Saturday, Sunday, and a holiday, but then on a evening we have mainly 2-3 shifts that overlap to one another to protect against over hours. Operating procedures. The operating procedures that we implemented were aimed to reduce the disconnect between reception and the service itself, especially as an emergency service was not possible to have missing links between the two. So what we designed, instead of using phone calls to communicate the arrival of a patient, we're using a bell. This bell will be rang by the receptionist on arrival to the hospital of any Notfall patient. So every time an emergency patient arrives to the hospital, physically arrives to the hospital, the bell will ring. And once the bell rings, there would be an immediate triage exam performed by either a TPA, a doctor, or a trained ER student of that specific patient. That will happen within 60 seconds from the bell ring. Once that examination is performed, based on the presenting complaints and the appearance of a patient and very basic examination of the patients that is strictly related to cardiovascular stability, respiratory pattern, and neurological status. Those are the only 3 things looked at. The patient will be deemed either stable or not urgent, or unstable, urgent, or unclear, meaning for any patient that cannot be easily determined whether it is stable or not, and in this group many cats will fit, then that patient would be considered a red triage code, whereas any stable, clearly stable or not urgent patient would be called as a green triage code. If the patient is unstable, that patient is rushed into the shock room for a full assessment and stabilization. The patient comes alone in a shock room. The client stays at the front desk to get the Aufnahme paperwork taken care of. The doctor then returns to the lobby and discusses the severity of the situation with the client. Should an unclear patient come to the shock room and then deemed stable, the patient then is returned to the owner in the waiting room. If instead the triage examination results in a green code, so a stable patient, that patient stays with the owner to do the reception in the waiting room, to do the registration at the reception, and waits in the waiting room, and it would be evaluated in order of arrival. Obviously, any red patient that arrives takes priority of evaluation and stabilization over any green, and the green patients owners are notified should that be the case and updated. On top of that, we organize an hourly check of the waiting room in case a patient that was deemed stable 30 minutes or 45 minutes before all of a sudden actually had a condition that now warrants immediate evaluation, but also to make sure that the room stays clean and in order, and to answer questions. Those hourly checks are triggered by an alarm in our room that tells us it's the time to do a check. The clients are preemptively informed of how the Notfall service work via a poster that is put in the waiting room. It's a multilingual poster that here is the German version, and that I cannot read yet, but Dr. Reusch has helped largely at designing the wording of this version. And then there's an English and Italian version that we have prepared. Basically, the concept is very simple. We tell them that we are there for them, but also we tell them that not all emergencies are equally urgent. And so whatever is urgent will be treated first, regardless of the time of arrival. The waiting time will vary for the stable patients depending on how busy we are and how many sick patients we are managing at the same time. No treatments will be rushed, and their patients is highly valuable and just as important as our patient care to optimize the safety of our patients. So, and clarifying that obviously for anything that requires further assessment, they will be directly involved in making decisions of anything that has to be done for their animals. Caseload. The caseload has been skyrocketing a little bit, and as expected in any emergency service that's just opened. So this is not unexpected, and likely we're going to have a progressive increase up to a plateau over the next few months. Normally the plateau occurs within a year of opening, so I would say that likely by January we're going to be at a steady state of caseload that would be maintained thereafter. We will definitely thrive to provide the best level of care possible rather than the number of cases managed. So to me, this means very little, especially if more cases will mean poorer level of care. Also, poor level of care means doctors' exhaustions at all levels and dead markers. For the dead doctors, there's not much to do, unfortunately, but for the dead marker to list the patient received, I found a solution, which is a screen. This one, unless the electrical power goes down, continues recording with the same dark black. The information provided here are extremely useful to me, to the service, but also can be used by the whole hospital to their advantage, because not only they list whether it is a cat, a dog, a zoo animal, or a wild patient, a wild animal. It lists the time of arrival that is useful for statistics, but also for organization of a service. It lists the severity of their condition on arrival. It gives the reason why they arrived, whether the owner selected to do CPR or not, should their condition being critical, the doctor assigned to the case and in charge of a case in Notfall, and whether the patient stayed in the hospital and so they were transferred, or they were transferred elsewhere, or they were sent home or euthanized. When they were transferred, which service they were transferred to, And the last list here will indicate when paperwork are finished, so to guarantee that all patients have paperwork done properly. The current caseload varies during the time of the day as expected. During weekdays, so Monday through Friday, we are seeing an average of 10 to 15 cases a day, I should say a night basically, but those are largely concentrated between 5 p.m. and 10 p.m. There's a little bit of an orange zone where there's still quite a bit of cases, which is from 4 to 5 and then from 10 o'clock until 1 o'clock in the morning. That is the busy receiving. For the weekend, the time is a little bit extended. Saturday is a busy day all day, but the concentration of the vast majority of cases is between 10 a.m. and 11 p.m. On a Sunday is more the afternoon. People on Sunday apparently like to have lunch and then bring the sick dog in, and the workload still extend all the way to 11. The weekend definitely is a busy time, and we see an average of 35 to 45 cases a day. Obviously, this is a preliminary analysis from just 6 weekends and a month and a half of weekdays. The caseload distribution is, so far we are transferring almost 50% of the cases that arrive. So those patients stay in the hospital and they're transferred. Of this, about 70% goes to internal medicine as a general service that receives them. Then another large part goes to surgery, and then everyone else divided equally. And 37% is the number of patients that is discharged at the time within the time of the Notfall visit. 6% euthanized, and then we have wild animal brought in by clients, as well as Findle tier brought in that equal to about 10% of the whole population. These are numbers that obviously could change, but I think are highly representative of also the future. As an emergency university hospital, as an emergency unit in a university hospital, the vast majority of cases will have the tendency to have a little bit of a more complicated presentation, and often the owner coming is willing to pursue further care for their pet. So that's why I don't think that we're going to be able to reduce much the percentage of patients being transferred, and nor to increase largely the number of patients being discharged on the same visit. So short-term goals that certainly we are heavily working on. One, I will start German school on October 1st. That I think it will help everybody, including me. The Notfall IPS team unification and organization has already started, and we are working on it. We are at preliminary stages, but certainly will be a very interesting cooperation and unification. The work group, we have a work group that is right now in these days working on SOP between Notfall and surgery, and I plan to have similar interaction with all the other services in the hospital, one after the other. The surgeons were just faster and wanting to have an answer on how to do things, so that's why we are doing those first. And then we have a work group on administrative SOPs that are for the time being related to Findeltiere management, minimum deposit by clients, and how to handle bad payers of the hospital. With this, I'd like to conclude the presentation here with some cute pictures of some of my team members and my girls here that they went for a walk with Tanya at that time and their friends. My office is more like a shelter rather than a office, but that's okay. And thank you very much to your attention, and once again I'm very sorry I couldn't be there in person to give you this presentation. With great pleasure, I look forward to our futures together, and I'm certain of a great success for the whole hospital, not just the team, not just the Notfall service. Thank you again. Have a wonderful day, night, whatever it is. Bye-bye.